What will you do if your in-laws made your life unbearable? Would you stand up for yourself or would you keep quiet to keep the peace? In this story, Funmbi faces the ultimate test of patience as her in-laws push her to the breaking point. Watch this story to find out how love and standing up for what's right collide in an unforgettable twist. In a city not too far away, there lived a couple who had prayed and hoped for a child for many years. After what seemed like a lifetime of trying, their prayers were finally answered. 9 months later, they welcomed their precious baby boy, naming him Funto. Funto's arrival filled his parents' hearts with unmeasurable joy. Having waited for so long, they cherished him deeply, but this love gradually turned into overprotectiveness. Funto's parents spoiled him with everything they had, protecting him fiercely. To them, their son could do no wrong. They scrutinized everyone in his life, from his friends to his girlfriends, disapproving of anyone they thought wasn't good enough for him. Despite their overbearing nature, Funto grew into a respectful, kind man beloved by all. When he met Funmbi, a woman who captured his heart with her kindness, intelligence and warmth, Funto was certain she was the one. However, his parents, having become accustomed to controlling his life, were immediately displeased. "This Funmbi girl," Madam Olu snapped. "Who is she? Where does she come from?" Chifolu frowned. "A girl of no status. That is what she is. Funto, you can't be serious." "I love her," Funto said firmly, "and I'm going to marry her." "Love? What does love have to do with anything? That girl doesn't belong in our family. She's not fit to carry the holy name." Funto stood his ground. "I am not asking for your approval. I am marrying her." They tried to dissuade him from marrying her, but Funto remained steadfast. Eventually, they gave in, and the couple's wedding was a lavish affair filled with family, friends, and well-wishers. As a wedding gift, Funto's parents gave them a house conveniently located close to their own. The couple was overjoyed, not realizing this gift came with strings attached. "You would love it here," Madam Olu said with a tight smile as she handed Funmbi the keys to their new home. "And will just be a stone's throw away if we ever need anything." Funmbi smiled politely, feeling a chill run down her spine. In the first few months of marriage, everything was blissful. But soon, Funto's parents became frequent visitors to their home, overstaying their welcome. At first, Funmbi didn't mind. She treated them with respect as any dutiful daughter-in-law would. But their constant visits turned into week-long stays, and gradually, they began to find fault with everything she did. The house wasn't clean enough, the food was too salty, her efforts never seemed to satisfy them. "See how useless she is," Funto's mother would mutter under her breath. "She doesn't even know how to take care of the house." Funmbi tried to ignore the constant criticisms. She loved Funto and didn't want to cause any tension. But when Funto's parents began openly belittling her in front of him, Funto always defended his wife. "Mom, Dad, don't speak to Funmbi like that," he would say, putting an end to the insult, at least while he was present. But as soon as he left the room, the verbal attacks would start again. One day, while Funmbi was preparing dinner, she asked her mother-in-law to watch a pot on the stove while she quickly ran out to get the ingredients. Her mother-in-law agreed, but when Funmbi returned with Funto, they were met with the smell of burnt food. Rushing to the kitchen, she found the pot charred and her mother-in-law seated calmly in the living room. "Mommy, I thought I asked you to help me watch the food," Funmbi asked, confused. Her mother-in-law, without missing a beat, turned to Funto and said, "See the useless girl you married? I told you she wasn't good for you. She almost burnt the house down. She cannot cook, she cannot clean, and now she even wants to kill me. Can you see that she's no good for you?" "Mom," Funto interrupted, "you could have turned off the stove. Anyone could have made that mistake." His mother fumed silently, her son's rebuke still stinging, but she said nothing. Their constant meddling continued, slowly wearing down Funmbi's spirit. Funto always stood up for her, but the moment it wasn't around, the harassment resumed. It reached a breaking point when Funto had to go on a 2-week trip. "I don't want to stay here alone with your parents," Funmbi confided in him. "You know they don't like me, and I'm worried they'll make my life miserable." "Don't worry," Funto reassured her. "I will talk to them. They won't do anything while I'm gone." Reluctantly, Funmbi agreed to stay behind, hoping his word would hold true. But as soon as Funto left, the torment began. His parents demanded she do extra chores, hurled insults at her, and made a mess of the house, expecting her to clean it up. "Now that your husband is not here, nobody will defend you from us," Funto's father muttered over her as she swept the floors. Funmbi said nothing, doing as they asked, suffering their attacks in silence and hoping their refusal to react to make a difference. By the fourth day, Funmbi had had enough. She woke up, looked around at the mess they had made, and decided she would no longer be their victim. She walked past the dirty dishes and the clothes they had strewn across the floor and locked herself in the bedroom. The house was quiet for the first few hours, but then a knock sounded at the door as she heard the voice of Funto's father calling out to her. "So you don't know you will wake up and cook? Because your husband is not around?" Rolling her eyes, Funmbi responded, "You always complain that my food is salty or that it is not sweet, so I have decided I won't cook for you anymore." This shocked them, but Funmbi ignored them. A few hours later, she was hungry and wanted to make herself a sandwich. She went down to the kitchen and was shocked to find it messy. Dishes had been piled up and flour powdered the cupboard as if a bag had exploded. Ignoring the chaos, Funmbi made herself a sandwich and returned to her room. That night, another knock sounded at her door, and this time it was her mother-in-law. "Won't you clean the kitchen?" "No," she responded. "You made a mess, so you should clean it. I am not your maid." Madame Olu's eyes widened. "Excuse me?" "I said," Funmbi repeated, her voice steady, "I am not your maid. I am done cleaning up after you." "Done?" Madame Olu scoffed. "You are my son's wife. This is your duty." Funmbi stared back at her unfazed. "Not anymore." To which Madame Olu replied, "You this useless girl, you will go back to your father's house. Is this how you will treat my son?" Over the rest of the weeks, this behavior from her in-laws continued. Funmbi took care of herself by cooking meals only for herself and cleaning up after her own mess. She avoided trouble by remaining in her room, caring only for herself and staying out of their way. On the day Funto was due to return, Funmbi came downstairs to find the house in complete disarray. Flour covered the countertops, dirty dishes filled the sink, and the living room looked like a storm had passed through. Just as she stood in disbelief, her in-laws emerged. "You better clean this place up before Funto returns," his mother said. "He will see what a useless wife he married." That was the final straw for Funmbi. "Mommy, Daddy, what is it? Are you not ashamed of how dirty you are? Can't you go back to your own house and stop making life miserable for me?" Her voice shook with frustration. "I am not your servant. I am your son's wife, and I deserve respect in my own home." Enraged, Funto's mother raised her hand and slapped Funmbi across the face. The pain was sharp, but what hurt more was the disrespect. "How dare you slap me?" Funmbi asked, annoyed. "He is my husband, and he has left your house since. Leave his own house for him too. Enough is enough. I am not your house girl. I am his wife. If you cannot respect me, please leave our house. I am done with this. I am not going to be a servant in my own home. I refuse. Since he left, see what you have turned the whole house into." Madame Olu's hands went up to slap Funmbi again, but this time she held her hand and stopped her, pushing her away. Just then, the door opened and Funto stepped inside, having arrived earlier than expected. He had heard everything. His mother, seeing him, quickly began to act, crying crocodile tears and spinning a tale of how Funmbi had disrespected them and refused to do anything around the house. "This your wife? I have told you she is useless," she began. "See how she's holding your mother like a thief. She wants to beat me. Since you left, she has been maltreating your father and I. She did not cook, she did not clean. Since you left the house, she did nothing at all. A very disrespectful girl." His father chimed in, accusing Funmbi of being lazy and insolent. Funmbi, exhausted from it all, stood silently as they slandered her, but Funto, who had been listening from the door, silenced them. "I have been standing at the door for over 10 minutes and I heard everything that had happened today. I saw you slap Funmbi and you wanted to hit her the second time." His parents were stunned into silence. His mother's face paled as she realized that she had been caught. Turning to his wife, he said, "I should have stood up for you sooner. I'm sorry for everything they've put you through." He looked at his parents with finality in his voice. "Pack your things and leave. You are not welcome in this house until you can respect my wife." "But we are your parents," his father protested. "And she is my wife," Funto replied firmly. "If you can't respect her, you have no place here. If you cannot treat my wife well, you are not welcome in the home that I share with her." "But you are our only son, and she is my only wife," he exclaimed. "She is not your housemaid or your punching bag." Shocked and chastened, his parents left. That night, Funmbi and Funto cleaned up the mess they had made, both physically and emotionally. As they finished, Funto looked at her husband and smiled through her tears. "Thank you for believing in me." Funto hugged her tightly. "I should have done this sooner. I will never let anyone disrespect you again." And that was how they put an end to the torment Funmbi had endured for so long. Sometimes it takes standing up for what is right to truly find happiness, because sometimes the answer to violence is violence. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Have you or someone else you know been in a similar situation as Funmbi? How was it handled? Please share in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. See you in the next video. Stay kind and be blessed.